So my piece is small. I just want to spread the same concept just globally around the world. Talking about scope creep and boiling the ocean. That's what I would like to take on. So these are the last couple projects we've done with the IISE Chapter, Sustainable Development Division, to do the volunteer activity. This is what kind of got me going down this path a little bit. In Portland, we've had, since about 2015, we've had some good activity going on with nonprofits. So we've had 6 nonprofits we've been working with, done some workshops, and the feedback has been really positive from the nonprofits, and a lot of interest from people wanting to volunteer. So we know that there's a lot there going on, and a lot of the challenges Tiff brought up is very common too, of how do you line everybody up to get the nonprofits on board at the right time with the volunteers that want to be there. It's been a difficult coordination, but we know they want the help, and we know that we have volunteers. I have like 40 on our list that want to help, but it's all like coordination activity. So it's there. So the schedule, the turnover in the nonprofits has been way higher than I imagined, and that's really disrupted a lot of activity where you kind of a lot of start and stop. And then just trying to match up people's schedules with when the nonprofit wants the help. And so how do you fit that into, most of the volunteers want to have regular jobs that are 8 to 5 or whatever. So that activity really got me moving in this direction to say this is something that could be done and we can scale this concept. And so this is what I found in the US that looks like there's activity going on around this concept of process improvement or process efficiency, process improvement, Lean, Six Sigma, that type of activity for a group. If you know of other groups, please let me know so I can connect with them and reach out to them and start trying to coordinate some of this activity as well. But my thought is how do you grow this concept even though you don't have it quite figured out in any one area yet, and there are challenges and difficulties with that. And so I posed that question to a group of students, and there was a platform I learned about that was connecting students with businesses and trying to give them an opportunity to work on a project. And so I said, this sounds like something that students can go work on. So this is Royal Roads University in Victoria. They had a sustainability program for business students. And so I threw out my project, and they responded and said they wanted to help with this. So they had those 4 students worked on this project for about 6 months. This is a famous castle in one of the movies. I don't remember which one, the superhero movie, Marvel or X-Men, I think, or something like that. So put that up there. But there were people like the whole time I was there to visit, and to report out that they were taking photos and stuff. So
I thought that was their school, and I was jealous.
It is their school.
Really?
Yeah, this is cool. So we had a meeting inside the building there. So, but it was built in 1940s or something. It's not that old, but it looks really ancient. So, anyways, but it gave me an excuse to go to Victoria. That was really my purpose. So I gave them some criteria and some ideas, and this is what they came back with. So part of this is just kind of get some feedback as well on what direction I'm kind of going with this, but I also want some input, and if you're interested in helping, that'd be great too. They suggested that work with universities to co-host a nonprofit education workshop that would bring in students, the nonprofits, and then professionals who could provide the volunteering. And then for the nonprofits, it would be basically a chance to learn about process improvement or Lean or Six Sigma or one of these topics, which a lot of them seem to be interested in. So they'll learn something new. And if they like that, they're really good at sharing that with other nonprofits, and that would get some momentum going. So they're getting some knowledge there. This is a piece I really didn't think much about, but having the students think about it that way was really eye-opening. So they said, they want to learn something new as well. Some get this as part of their training, some don't necessarily get this. I don't remember if that school had any, I think they had like some elective classes on Lean. I don't think they had an industrial engineering program. So it was something that would have been a new topic for them as well. And they were looking for volunteer opportunities. And so if there was something a little bit more structured, and the opportunity to maybe get mentored by someone who's already doing that work, which is some of the challenge we ran into with matching up the professionals having free time to go work with the nonprofits. Can the students who have much more flexible schedules and even maybe get course credit or class credit for doing that, can they do some of the legwork and work with a mentor who has time where they can meet at odd times when the person is a little bit more flexibility. So that was a really cool piece that I think has a lot of merit to it. And then for the professionals, they can come and teach and share their knowledge and experience, and then possibly mentor the student teams who are trying to get some work experience. And they go out and do, like I said, a little bit of the legwork, but then as much as they can kind of participate, but they can maybe follow up and check in and keep the ball rolling with nonprofits. So maybe reaching out and starting with some schools that have an IISE background or undergrad program, or that have some Lean or Six Sigma teachings as part of their coursework. And then maybe looking for student chapters or organizations. Obviously IISE has those, but they're not everywhere. So there might be other organizations that have those kind of partnerships. And I'm sure there's a lot of other organizations like that. And then meeting space, that was something I brought up too, is I'm happy to go anywhere, but if I have to pay $50 an hour to rent a space, and we're gonna set up and tear down, and then an hour or two workshop, there's 4 hours of time, I gotta shell out $200 to donate my time to teach. It's a little tricky. So, but if the student chapter or the student organization organized and set it up, then they would invite in the professionals to do the class and the nonprofits, then there's no charge there. So I thought that was a good idea as well. And so next steps is kind of, they provided some next steps and recommendations, and that would be to find the nonprofit, there's a bunch of nonprofit centers throughout the country, and I kind of had them scoped to US for right now, just because that would be a little bit more feasible for me. So, and then the nonprofit centers have a listing of all the nearby or local nonprofits. So Oregon has a Nonprofit Association of Oregon, and a lot of contacts and listings for Oregon nonprofits. So if you had a workshop put together, you connect with them and they can possibly share that out with their membership. And then for me, it's looking at Oregon State or Portland State as a connection point. Portland's right in Portland, of course, closer, but Oregon State has an industrial engineering program and more qualified students. So, and they have a student chapter, so that one makes a little bit more sense. And then maybe some evaluation of the Portland program first, and then maybe a next location after that. They also came up with some ideas for possible locations. Some of the criteria, I gave them some rough criteria to think about, and then come up with like a scoring and a ranking system. And so how many nonprofits are in the state? How many professional organization memberships are there? And so looking up some of the nonprofits or some of the professional organizations to see how many members it had by state. Google searches for Lean and Six Sigma by state, and then like a per capita number of people per nonprofit as a way to say maybe the ones that really need the help are the ones that don't have many nonprofits, so they might be more in need of help to be able to do their work. So these are the states or the cities that came up on their list. So I need to kind of go through and think about them a little bit, but I think this is a little bit down the line, not right away, but it's kind of interesting some of the cities that came up there. And then these are the states in order of number of nonprofits, which kind of surprised me too. I don't have the numbers in my notes, but Texas has the most. Doesn't seem, it's a little surprising, I guess. I mean, size-wise it makes sense, but the sheer number of nonprofits, maybe it does make sense. I don't know.
Is it possibly where is it the actual physical address, or is this where their nonprofits are like set up for nonprofit reasons for tax purposes? Are there advantages? So is it really
Yeah,
the mailing address or the physical?
Good question. Yeah, I don't know that detail. So yeah, I mean, California, Texas, Florida, New York, those are large states. Illinois is a big state. So yeah, it's interesting to kind of think, you know, if you went to, my thought was, if you have an idea where the professionals are at and where the nonprofits are at, and you merge them together, this is kind of our first stab at it. So that was my thought process and what I gave them to look at. So this is kind of what they came up with. And these were the nonprofit networks they found throughout the country. So looks like there's good opportunity to find a network to connect into. So that's the third piece of that, is then getting access and finding the nonprofits. Okay, so that's kind of the plan. The other piece of this is going in another direction and just kind of putting out these examples and exercise and case studies, experiences, that type of thing. So this book that I've got here is, we're in the middle of it. I'm in the middle of it right now with, got 6 chapters written. I'm going to get about, the goal is to get like 10 or 12 written and then publish it like live on Amazon. But you can go and order the book now. And so every time a chapter gets finished, then I just release it. So I'm doing this one chapter at a time, basically. So it's all digital right now. But Joe has a chapter in there. And then Andrew Paris has written some articles for IISE magazine a couple times. Mark worked with us at Rockwell Collins or Collins Aerospace. I talked about some experience working at a nonprofit that I'm running in Portland. There's one for government. This one's for a flag distribution program in Iowa too, from a friend of mine. So if anyone is interested in contributing a chapter with their experience working with a nonprofit, and the idea with this book is to give you some examples, just like Joe went through. Here's what worked, here's what didn't work, this is what I learned. Recommend you do this, try this. Here's some best practices, and hopefully over time it'll give people some things to think about when they're thinking about going into work with a nonprofit. It'll say, are these the things I need to consider and think about? Also, I'm trying to get some people who work in a nonprofit to write a chapter. So I've got 2 people right now who are doing process improvement in a nonprofit, and they can provide some insights from that perspective, as well as suggestions and ideas for people coming into the nonprofit, how they can approach it. So the idea is I'm going to put out a couple different volumes of this with 40, 50 different chapters of people with their experiences, and that'll be maybe motivating for people to read and want to take that first step or reach out, or maybe set up their own organization, a group like one of these chapters, or take the lead on that.
And all the money goes to nonprofits.
Yes, I need to make that. So each author gets to pick which nonprofit they want to fund, and I'm working it out to try to be like about $2 a sale for each author. So every time I add a chapter, then I bump the price up $2 more. But if you buy it early, then you get all the extra chapters for free. So it's a good deal. You know. Buy now. Yeah. For a limited time only. So I think the prices right now is like $13 or $15. What's that?
Is there a secondary market where you can sell it later or the right?
That'd be awesome, man. I don't think so. And then when I get the volume finished, then I'll like put it on Amazon, because I don't think you can really list it as half of a book or I don't know. It gets really complicated the way I'm doing it, but it's a smart way. If I waited till all the chapters are done, it wouldn't be out there yet. So just trying to roll it out one chapter at a time, one piece flow. So the local chapters, there's a webinar we just did in April, so you can listen to that through that link. I tried to summarize what Tip did a much better job doing right now. And then Atlanta has started some work as well. So Greg Smith gives a little update on that, and I go in a little bit more detail of what we've done in Portland. And then Stella has given a webinar in the past too about what's going on in Los Angeles. So there's a PDF as well. And then there's a webinar link, but last time I tried to get on there, it didn't work. So I've sent it out for tech support and haven't heard back yet. So I don't know if you have a copy somewhere of the recording. But and then I'm putting as many examples I can find on a website, Lean Six Sigma for Good, where it's trying to break it up into different categories. So if I find an article or a video or a podcast or something related to a process improvement with a nonprofit, I'm putting it on that website. So if you find articles, just send them to me, and even if you think I might have it, I might not. So, but you can also, the idea with that website was so that if we approach a nonprofit, say, you're a food bank, great, here's a list of a bunch of articles and videos about food bank and improvements, and maybe that will give you the idea of what kind of things we can provide. And then this book came out just March or something, but it's the St. Bernard Project. It's a nonprofit that was rebuilding homes and after Hurricane Katrina, I believe, and they worked with Toyota, who helped them transform and kind of be more efficient about how they're doing it. So I just finished reading this really good book about basically how they helped them change the way they operate. And then this book, Lean Startups for Social Change, is a good book for how to experiment with ideas using Lean Startup method, but applied to more nonprofit and community impact and social awareness issues. And then this is a book around kind of lean in government aspect, which is another piece of this, is how do you change the way that our government agencies operate. And so this is a book written about Denver's Peak Academy program, which is kind of like a Lean Six Sigma program they put together. It's a really short read, but it's a really good example of how the city is kind of really going down this path. And there's a couple other cities and states that are doing a lot of cool stuff, but there's a lot of the same bureaucracies that nonprofits might run into as well. So, other ideas or thoughts, at least on this idea. So using the book to kind of hit at individuals, trying to build some activity to try to go top down, kind of set up some locations or target some areas for expansion of this concept. And then the website. So go website, book, and some kind of early stages of a plan. Any other thoughts about expanding these concepts and ideas out? Joel?
It's kind of funny because I'll acknowledge to the room that Brion's been asking me for probably about 1.5 years to write a chapter for this book. I'm actually on the board of an animal shelter that's based in Arkansas. And I kind of tie something together with your presentation where you had the point about you need the team first. I think what keeps happening is we keep losing people on our team, and we keep having to just do the basics all the time, and that's why I never get to this thing of like having a good idea that I can give you, like for a chapter. So it's just funny how your point was so well taken. You know what I mean? And in some of those communities, you just can't get enough volunteers. You can get the basics done. Like we gotta clean out cat litter boxes and load the food off the truck.
Yeah. Well, and I think that's part of it too. Is most of the stuff I found, there isn't any nice clean case studies. They're all got issues and flaws and hiccups, and this kind of worked, and then this didn't work, and then we backtracked, and even the ones that worked in Portland, it was like they'll disappear for a year, and then they'll pop back in. Hey, remember that stuff we were doing? We're ready to do that again. We got over this big hurdle or this financial problem, and so I think that's normal, and I think we can say that's what you're getting into. This isn't smooth and clean, and you can't throw money at this. You gotta go at the pace of what they're ready for. So that's okay, and that's what you're getting into, but this is still good work, and it does have a benefit, and it does help.
So maybe a story just about standard methods or just the regular tools to keep the dog area tidied up on a daily basis. Those kind of things would be good enough, then, is what you're kind of saying.
I can
Yeah.
work with those.
Yeah.
I know.
Any thoughts? Yeah.
So are you connected to the Institute for Healthcare Improvement?
Nope.
Okay, so because you're saying you kind of do a search for Lean Six Sigma or whatever. So that whole healthcare world doesn't like the words Lean Six Sigma or industrial engineering.
Yeah.
So the Institute for Healthcare Improvement is actually a pretty vibrant place for addressing that whole volunteer, nonprofit world, and they'll use words like improvement associate, or other words to get to the same thing. And Oregon. I know some of the leaders in Portland, Care Oregon, and so forth do a lot through that.
Yeah.
So that's one large set of nonprofits that they also have means by which they give listings of those who are able to help out in different organizations. So that might be worth looking at that so that we can better inject our industrial engineering people using the right words into those communities. Then also government nonprofit. If you count government as nonprofit,
Yep.
then there's a fair amount of places where you get government mandates for improvement, like here in Florida. There's been a mandate that says, cities need public guys, this was the Jeb Bush days. But everyone, you need to do the Florida Quality Award, which is the Baldrige Award. So suddenly you have all of these city managers who were sending their people to training in this kind of thing. So that's another place where if you look and say, what kind of mandates are there?
Yeah, what states are doing some of that work already where, they could bring in help or.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That our organization can address this Baldrige stuff is very big, but one of the first things they say is, what's your improvement system? And say, improvement systems, that's our area. So you can go in and you can say, well, you're mandated to do this kind of thing in your public sector area, and we can help you with that.
Yeah. And I don't know how that exactly works with working with the government on that. It's not really a volunteer group, but I think even an advisory role to say, if you guys are going to go down, because I've had that discussion with a couple agencies or quasi-government agencies that they get funded and they're a business, but they get most of their funding from the government. We're going to do an improvement program. What are some tips and tricks?
What you end up doing is you may have like a mayor's committee, which is just going to be a voluntary set of people. So like years ago with San Diego, we had the mayor's committee where we said, okay, let's come in and help figure out how we can improve San Diego, and it was volunteer resources.
Yeah, that would be a good one.
So it's another different way of connecting into those who are basically nonprofit who could use some voluntary convincers. Yes.
Yeah, Christian.
I have a basic question. I think it was your second or third slide. Did you go back real quick?
Yep. This one,
So in the last bullet point, what perspective were you talking about turnover? Is it people who work for nonprofits or people who volunteer? Like, what's that perspective?
yeah, it's been the staff level has been pretty steady, but the management and even the executive director have changed over a lot. So let's see, both people left that one. 3 executive directors have left or changed over. That's been steady actually. And we came on board after they had a new executive director that was there 20 years. So I would say that was steady, but this one, Restore we're on the 3rd manager we worked with in that one. So it's been start stop. So way more than I thought. I thought it wouldn't be that bad. And it's really disruptive to momentum.
Very, very little I've read about that. It's when you've got someone in industry, they don't want to have a gap in their resume. They go find a job that they will do for a period of time. It's at a lower salary than they expect. They will do it for a while and then find a new job. Or even within folks that want to stay in the nonprofit sector, they will look for better opportunities regularly. That's an interesting research area.
Yeah.
Actually.
And burnout could be another one I've heard too, is just, they're taking the work so overwhelming and so much needs to be done and they're passionate about it, but they're understaffed and processes are broke. And so after a while, it's just like, I can't do this. So I guess that's maybe the norm, or maybe we're just got bad timing on the ones we have worked with so far. Probably not.
It's
Probably. So anyways, this is a long, ongoing thing, so keep the ideas coming. Thanks.